Hello and welcome along to Mondo Chelloveck Movies. My name is John, and the other day I was talking to John Clancy from the channel Movie Collector. I'll leave a link down to his amazing channel down below. And we got on to talking about some 4Ks that I previously thought were quite underwhelming. So John says, have you checked these ones out again on your Oled TV? And I said, well actually I haven't. Or I don't think I've checked out most of these ones. What I did was I picked out a few of these titles that I thought weren't the greatest when I originally checked them out, probably on my other TV. So these are my top 10 4K revisits on my Oled TV. So number 10 is American Psycho. Now this movie, to me, looks like it's been slightly DNR'd, just a little bit. I think that Christian Bale's face always seems to be ultra smooth in it. Now this could be because he seems to have this sort of layer of sort of makeup on, for want of a better word, like a sort of sheen to his skin. It doesn't seem to be that way in the other people's faces, just his face, and it just comes across a bit like DNR, and that put me off a little bit of this movie. I always thought that this movie just seemed to lack something. I think it's quite colourful, but not colourful in the way you think it would be. I do think that when I've watched this one and clips, I've looked at clips of all of these ones, I think that the black levels on here are a lot better than what I previously thought about it, because obviously on an OLED TV you get that black levels sort of boost. And all these movies to me have come up in my estimation. I mean, this is by no means a bad 4K, but I think on this flick through, this one has come a little bit better than I've previously thought, but I still think it's got that waxy DNR to his face slightly. So number 10, that's American Psycho. At number 9 is a movie that we were talking about most on this list, and it is Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Now, I originally thought this one, I just picked it up. I didn't do what I usually do. I try and check out a little bit about the info about these movies and see if they're worth picking up on 4K. I just assumed, wrongly, that this one would be like jaw-dropping on 4K. It should be, but it's not. Anyway, so I put it on the 4K. This is the one that John says, well, check this again on the OLED and just see what you think of it. And when I put it on again, I've got to say, unfortunately, most of the picture just looks exactly the same as a Blu-ray, but the colours that you get in this movie, they do seem to come alive more than they did when I watched them previously. And I don't know if it's this new setting I've got on my TV, but I do think towards the end of this movie looked a lot better than I thought it did previously. Unfortunately, the movie does still look like a good Blu-ray, but anyway, so I was hoping that this one will come to life a little bit more. It has a bit, but not a great deal. So at number 9, that's Scott Pilgrim versus the World. At number 8 is another one I heard disappointing things about, but I had to get this whole sort of series, which I really love. So it is Casino Royale. Now, this for me is the worst of the recent James Bond ones on 4K, the way it looks. Some of the other ones look sensational, and I know the Quantum of Solace is just absolutely breathtaking. But this one here, to me, it always sort of fell short a little bit. I know a lot of people say that when they talk about this movie. But when I put this on, I've got to say that the colours, and there's some scenes at night time as well, they look, the black scenes, the black levels in here look absolutely amazing. And some of the colours, when he's outside in bright colour, it does look really good. And the settings, like in Greece or somewhere like that, and it looks really nice. This is still the poorest of the James Bond Daniel Craig 4Ks. But the black levels have sort of brought this up in my estimation. So at number 8, that is Casino Royale. At number 7 is another movie that I've heard it's kind of like the Blu-ray. It is Arrival. I know this is in the Blu-ray case, but there's the 4K. This doesn't have a slipcover actually. Never released with one, but on the shelf you would never know. So the colour palette on this movie is quite muted. And to be honest, that's the way through the whole movie. But with the exception of these spacesuits they have on, and also these tents which are bright yellow, which look really good on the picture. Now, what I will say about this one, the black levels on here really stand out a lot more than they did before. It was quite drab, the picture quality, but I think that's the way it was intended. And I just want to say as well, a quick shout out to Jeremy Renner, who's had that sort of really bad accident recently, and I hope he's going to come back to full health, because it was quite to be crushed with a snowplow is no thing that you want to face in your life. So that sort of colour boost in the levels pushed this one quite far up. In fact, I'm quite surprised it's better than Casino Royale, but it just shows you how these black levels can sort of make or break a movie. So at number 7, that's Arrival. At number 6 is Life. This is another one that when I originally got it, I knew that some of these movies weren't classed as the best 4Ks ever. And I did like this movie a lot, so I thought, well, again, these movies I've all got in the sale, by the way, apart from Scott Pilgrim, which I paid full price for, £20. I wish I just checked on that one. I would have got it, maybe, but I would have got a lot less, a lot cheaper, because all of these things I'm going to show, you can see them in the 2 for £24 sales, or probably less. Now this one, it's very sharp. Now, I was quite surprised at how sharp this was. I mean, I thought it was, but it looked really sharp on there. And also the colours on here are much better than I thought they were when I originally watched it. So these movies, even though I do enjoy them, they've taken on a new release of Life. So at number 6, that's Life. So at number 5 is Mulholland Drive. Now this one's a bit of a mixed bag actually, because some scenes are they're a bit grainy. Some scenes are vivid, bright, and just a joy to watch. They're so some of them are so sharp, and yet some of them can be a little bit grainy. So it's a bit of a mixed palette on this release. But the majority of the scenes that I've checked out, and don't forget there's no chapter searches in here. You've got to fast forward the whole movie. You cannot skip to a scene, which is really strange. I think there's a few David Lynch movies that do that actually, which is a bit wild. So the colours and the sharpness really stand out to me. And to be honest, when I was looking through these, when I put these ones in the player, I thought this one would have been a lot lower, because I remember thinking in some of the scenes it's quite grainy. It doesn't really look like a good 4K, but in other scenes it just looks absolutely like mind-bending. So yeah, but if you start this film and you think it's not looking too good, do stick with it, because you will know that down the line you will see some absolutely brilliant things. And also at the start there's some black levels which look absolutely amazing as well. So number 5, that's Mulholland Drive. So number 4 is a 4K that always gets a bad review. When you hear about bad 4Ks in general, you always could hear this one on the list. So number 4 is Forrest Gump. Now I want to give a big shout out to Ellen, who is the fiance of Keith from Euphoria Pictures, link down below. So thanks a lot, Ellen, for sending this to me. I had no intention of watching this, but Ellen said, you've got to see this movie. So when I put it on, I had an absolute blast with it. This movie is sensational, as she said it was, and I do agree that it's just one of the best films I've seen, and also emotional. Wow. So when I put this on, I thought, I think this will look better, but I'm surprised how better this does look. When I watched this, I could see that, to me, the picture quality looked really sharp, and also the colours in it were so vibrant. It was unreal actually, because most of it, well, not most of it, but some of the parts take in place in jungle. You get a lot of greenery. You get a lot of greenery at the start actually, and I just think that the quality of it was really exceptional. And a lot of people dismiss this as being like one of the worst 4Ks you could ever see. And to be honest, you might be doing yourself a disservice by just not going near it. Because I personally think this, to be honest, the bits I saw, there's nothing wrong with this picture. In fact, it was one of the ones on this list that I thought it might be a bit low on the list, maybe about 8 or 9. But I was surprised to see how you could just tell a mile off that this was just a standout release. So once again, thanks to Ellen. So at number 4, that is Forrest Gump. The next 4K is a movie that I thought would be right at the bottom of this list. So number 3 is Annihilation. This movie is ultra sharp, to the point of me thinking, wow, because this didn't really sort of do anything with me when I originally saw it. I thought, yeah, it's all right. I do want to watch it, but I put it a bit on the back burner because it doesn't really look like a really good 4K, like eye candy 4K. But I was wrong. This one here looks absolutely sensational. Now it's funny because when you look at the shelves and you look at ones where you want to get a good 4K experience, this is the one that jumps out at you. It's made by the same fella who did Ex Machina. But yes, so the colours as well, I thought this was a very colourless movie, but far from it. It's very colourful. And also this is one of the ones where when John talked about this to me, I thought, well, will this really do anything, or will I be just saying, well, these all the same as they did before? But they don't. They do look better. Not all of them. Some of them look a little bit better. Some have got like a bit better colour, a bit better dark levels in it. That's the ones that really make these movies look different from before. But some of them are becoming really standout 4Ks. So at number 3, that's Annihilation. Again, the next 4K, when I watched it, I was quite underwhelmed by it. And I put it on this. I thought this one's going to be right down the bottom list, because I remember thinking to myself, there was a few on this ones that I thought would go higher up. Scott Pilgrim, I hope would go higher up, it didn't. And this one started off with, I thought, well, it's not going to set the world on fire, but it did. It is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood at number 2. So when I originally watched this, I didn't really know anything about it. I thought it was just like, obviously, Quentin Tarantino, and I had to see the first ever Quentin Tarantino movie that come out in 4K. So I thought, I've got to get that. But when I saw it, I thought, well, I didn't know what to make of it actually. But when I'm going to go back to this movie, because I really am going to watch this quite soon, I think of it more like a comedy. I thought it was going to be really about Charlie Manson. It's not. So on that strength of that, I'm going to watch this with like a fresh perspective. But I've got to say on this one, the picture quality on here really does blow my mind. The colours on here are unreal. Now, I thought the movie was very colourful, but I didn't think colours actually really stood out. But they really stand out in this one. It's ultra sharp as well. And it's one of those ones where, and I think, to be honest, some of these ones you watch and you think, is that it? And you put it at the bottom of the list of like rewatching it again. Because some of the ones that you get that are like so good on 4K, you can't wait to watch them like more or less straight away afterwards. That's number 2, that's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So number 1 on my top 10 revisits on my OLED TV is Free Guy. Now, I saw this originally on Sky Movies and I loved it. I thought it was so good and it looked sensational. So I thought, right, when I get the 4K, it's going to look even better. Well, I was quite disappointed because when I put it on, the 4K looked really dark. And it seems as if I had all the colours taken out of it. The sort of vibrancy of this movie, it's a very vibrant movie, just didn't seem to be there. And I remember thinking, oh, that's a bit of a step down. And it's still sharp, but it just didn't blow us away like the picture did on Sky Movies. But when I put this on, this is the one that's really jumped to the head of the queue with a bullet. This one is ultra sharp. The colours are just unreal. The black levels are astounding. And the sharpness is next level. I mean, some of the scenes in here looks like some of the best 4K I'll ever see. Now, I know a lot of people have said the same thing about Free Guy being too sort of dark and drab. But this setting I had on my TV, it just looked absolutely brilliant. This Dolby Vision light or bright. And this movie is definitely going to get a rewatch soon because we're going to watch it again. And I kind of want to go looking for movies. I don't really put this at the top of the list. But I think this one, and the sound quality on here is unreal as well. So this is one that's got everything going for it. So these movies here, these 10 movies, if you ever are like looking for a sale on CEX or anything, you see these movies and you think to yourself, you've heard bad things about them. If you do have an OLED TV and you've got the capability that brings to it, you might want to look again at these movies. You might get these movies quite cheap and you might not have them on your list, your shopping list to buy. But I can urge you to get any one of these, and I think you'll be quite blown away by them. So once again, these movies that have been regarded as sort of kind of middle-of-the-road 4Ks have really come to life on this, especially from there upwards. I think they are all sensational at the top half of this list. So thanks once again to John Clancy for putting this idea in my head. So thanks for watching, you take care, and I'll see you on the next video. Cheers.